I think quite simply, your that plan needs to be as important as your maths and English. That makes sense. It has to be,
Yeah.
like you were saying, really integral because it goes hand in hand. Because we know that our young people are leaving APs and schools, and they're not getting into the careers that they want. Employers are telling us that, right? So if we start it earlier, which is in schools, and we link it to their maths and English as well, that's where I think leaders need to really focus in on.
Welcome to Let's Make It Work, the podcast. Today, we're exploring how we can expand access to meaningful work experience for young people in alternative provision. This comes at an important moment with the Careers and Enterprise Company launching the Aspiring Pathways programme, a new government-funded initiative to widen access to work experience across all 333 state alternative provision schools in England. We'll be talking about what's different about AP, what works when it comes to work experience, and what educators and employers can do to make an impact. I'm joined by two fantastic guests today, Patrice Etienne, Head of Inclusion Programmes at ThinkForward UK, and Tina Haymar, Executive Head Teacher at the Rosewood School. So let's dive in and let's make it work. Thank you both for being here today. Very, very excited about this episode. Could we just start with you, Patrice? And if you could just introduce yourself and your background, that would be great.
Yeah, so my name's Patrice Etienne. I am a project manager and I'm head of inclusion at a charity called ThinkForward UK. I guess I've been working at ThinkForward for about 8 years, and the charity specialises in education. So we support over 1,500 young people who are under-resourced. And the idea is we work with them through coaching to help them find their careers, essentially the careers that they want for their futures. We work in Kent, Nottingham and London across 3 programmes.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Tina?
Yeah, my name's Tina Haymar. I'm the Executive Head of the Rosewood School. So it's a set of schools across Kent that support pupils with mental and physical health needs. So I've been in education most of my life, working mainly in mainstream, and over the last 5 years I've moved over to alternative provision. So first of all running a alternative provision for pupils with behaviour challenges, and now medical. So we have 3 schools, 2 of them physical for pupils to attend. One of them is hospital education for mental health and eating disorders. And we have other provisions as well. So we'll have an outreach provision and we have remote provisions as well. So for pupils that have got suppressed immunity, so they're too poorly to go into the community or go into school.
Thank you both. To begin then, we just want to touch on demystifying AP. And what are some of the myths that you'd want to dispel about young people in AP settings?
So many.
So many.
Well, first of all, they've got low aspirations. They absolutely haven't. They want the same opportunities as their peers. You hear it all the time, and I still see it now that, people view them as though they're not capable of getting strong GCSEs, etc., or actually participating in society in a meaningful way. So I think for me, that's probably the 2 main ones.
I think some of the things that I want to dispel about APs or young people who are in APs is that they just don't care about their futures. Essentially, all they do is they just need the opportunity. A lot of these young people who are in APs, a lot of them, I guess, just don't fit in a traditional setting, and they just need a different type of learning. And that's just what APs provide.
When they come to an AP, they're surrounded by people just like them. They all of a sudden fit in, don't they? And they have that sense of belonging, which I think is really powerful as well.
And what would you say is different about AP settings that engages students more than a typical classroom might in a mainstream school?
What we've seen that's quite successful is that the classes are smaller, so the young people have more attention. They can speak to teachers a lot more readily. They can get more support in that classroom. I also see that in a lot of the successful APs, they do quite practical subjects. So you might have like a music, BTEC, they might do sports, they might do some type of mechanics, some sort of construction. Just really hands-on life skills, I guess. Young people can use hairdressing, barbering, that sort of thing. And I think that really helps them to link how maths and English can be beneficial in those types of subjects as well.
whilst developing those skills.
Exactly.
And seeing how they might be applied in a workplace as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I think for our pupils that come into AP, they instantly feel safe. They're around people that they recognise. So there's that level of acceptance straight away. And the relational approach that we have with pupils as well is highly ambitious, but it's also about making them feel comfortable all the time. So they feel that they can, they can reach out to people. They know that they're there to learn and do the best that they can whilst they're there, because they're just there for a very short time. And I think they really appreciate that as well, that actually they've got a second chance, and they really, really go for that 100%. And that's what I see a lot of the time. And if they can't, there is a reason for it, and we're able to break that down because we do have the time, don't we? The staff have the time. So yeah, it's a great environment for them to be in when they're suffering from, it could be anything from trauma, maybe an unmet SEND need, etc. It just gives them that space and time to just relax and engage back in their learning experience.
Can also follow up from what you just said as well. What you said about an unmet SEND need, that's another thing that I'd like to dispel about APs and young people going to them. Not everyone's there because of, let's say, bad behaviour. There are
absolutely
other types of needs that these young people have that have gone undiagnosed, and this is the best place for them.
Before, they may not have been able to do that. I mean, mainstream schools are really, really busy from a capacity point of view. It's really difficult for them to, reach every single pupil. So there's going to be some pupils that, don't make it, unfortunately. They desperately want to still be in that mainstream setting with their friends and be successful, but actually they can't for whatever reason. And I feel that coming to AP for them is a massive step as well, because they're led to believe that they failed. And actually the impression that people get about AP, I don't think is a good one most of the time. And they're also fighting that stigma as well.
What I'd like to add to that is, the way I see it is, and the way what we talk about in Think Forward quite a lot, is equity.
Yeah.
It's about leveling that playing field. So it is different to mainstream school. APs are different. There's no denying that. But there is also, like you were saying, there's more practical life skills on offer. So it's just offering another side of what that young person might need to, I guess, be a success in the future.
So if we think about then when that does happen, could you share some of the impact back in the classroom or in your settings of when learners can really start to kind of see the relevance in what they're learning? You mentioned some brilliant kind of applied vocational subjects earlier.
So I've got a young man, and I guess it's really successful because, and this is verbatim what he said. He said, it's so great that that you're doing this work with us because we thought we were forgotten. So I guess in that sense, that's quite a successful story. And this young person getting coaching, business mentoring, insight days, an opportunity to do work experience. And that to him made him feel seen and made him feel heard, and just made him feel like he's got, I guess, a successful career ahead of him.
I love that example. It's just it just helps to bring it to life. I think we talk a lot about the impact of a modern approach to work experience and a progressive approach to work experience, but actually hearing the impact on individuals or small groups of young people and how transformational it can be is just always great to hear. So what role would you say that identity and self-belief play for young people in AP, and how can modern work experience help to shift that narrative?
I mean, it's huge, isn't it? We see it firsthand, I'm guessing, every day when they're doing work experience, because we see them coming through the door and, you don't know what's been going on in their environment, etc. But they come in and they're not in a good place sometimes. And then you see them go to work in something that we provided, and then all of a sudden they become almost like a different person. They're interacting with the people they're working with, they're interacting with customers, etc. And they are able to contribute. And I think that gives them energy, and I think you have to have energy when you're in the workplace. And I think just being up and about and busy and having a purpose, it just absolutely, for them, by the end of the couple of days that they're doing their work experience, or even the week, depending on how long it is, they have that sense of purpose. Their families have seen them as well, actively been involved in work experience. It's about teamwork, it's about them understanding reliability, you've got to show up, etc. And they feel proud of themselves that they've achieved something. So again, being successful is really, really important for them. And they can sit in a classroom and they've done it for years since year R, but they go into the workplace and all of a sudden they're learning new skills.
It's real all of a sudden, and that they
have to step up.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I add to that as well? Just to say, so with the work experience that we do and the insight days as well, we make sure we pair the young people up with someone that looks similar to them, or who has been through, I guess, a similar kind of experience, a lived experience, I guess. And what a lot of the young people have feedback to say is that, I guess, in a roundabout way, if they can see it, they can achieve it, right?
Yeah.
It really raises their aspirations. Like, wow, oh my God, he came from Hackney as well, and I come from Hackney. That means I can make it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that just because, I'm in an alternative provision and people may think bad about that or have their negative thoughts about it, doesn't mean that I can't make it because this person has made it. Do you see what I mean?
That's powerful, yeah.
I think what's coming through really strongly is the power of preparation and that kind of being intentional by design. Can we just touch on the power of language and how important it is to use positive, I think you call it asset-based language at ThinkForward, and how important that is to brief employers as well on that?
Yeah. So our asset-based language at ThinkForward was created in partnership with young people. Essentially, they led on all of the language that they don't really like. Some of those are kind of like the term kid, and they prefer to be called young people. Disengaged, they don't like. There's a whole host in the asset base which you're going to magically put on the screen. Essentially, what we want to do is we want to talk about young people in a strength asset-based way. So what they can do as opposed to what they can't do. And then, we found that employers, when they use that with our young people as well, that helps to, I guess, give the young people confidence, and again, makes them feel heard, right?
I think it's a fantastic idea because I think, unfortunately, some work experience placements do break down, and it might be because of that. So I think to have that kind of product that you give to employers, etc., and maybe educationists as well, I think it's got to be a good thing. I think it goes both ways as well. I think obviously the young people, like that, they need to understand what's acceptable in the workplace in relation to conversation as well. I'm guessing some of mine, and I've seen it, would be oversharing, and I think that can be really difficult for people that they're working with, etc. So I think it would be really good to maybe have an asset product that actually goes both ways, so they can pick up on things that wouldn't be acceptable as well.
That forms that integral part of preparation.
Yeah,
that would
it's
be
a two-way process,
useful.
isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Can I add as well that by no means am I or anyone at ThinkForward, we're not perfect in this. It's just it's a learning kind of evolving language. But at least we're trying is the point. And I think if people use it in the future, the asset-based language, it's just about trying. You're not going to get it right all the time, but I mean, none of us are perfect. So it's just about being open to trying.
And you said it before, didn't you? It's that avoiding that kind of negative perception, isn't it? And that nobody likes to be labelled as anything, do they? It's more about how can we truly collaborate and work together to actually, create opportunities, which leads nicely into asking you both what modern work experience looks like for you in your AP settings. You mentioned your coffee shop earlier. I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, we're trying to aim as high as we possibly can for them. So hence why we get employers to come in. I think they do that on by choice. So that there might be someone that comes in and they think, I really want to give that a go. So they'll do a 6-week carousel on that. But they'll be expected to go around and maybe do things that are outside of their comfort zone as well. Maybe some things that they haven't heard of before. And the whole point is if for whatever reason, from a health need point of view, that they can't work for in the future, then they should be able to go back to their experience that they've had with us and think, well, what can I do from my bedroom, from my living room, where I can contribute to society still, make some money and still do nice and have nice experiences for myself because I can afford to do them. So that's the goal, that actually they can become entrepreneurs.
If somebody listening is thinking, I would love to set up something similar, would you mind just saying a little bit about some of the decisions, some of the systems that you've put in place as a head teacher kind of back, 3-5 years ago to make it happen in the first place?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm really lucky. I have control of my budget. So I had to make some really big decisions from the outset. What was it that we wanted our young people to be able to achieve. And for them to be confident and resilient and be reliable, then they needed to have work experience opportunities. We needed to get them out of the system of just going into classrooms and preparing for exams, etc. So I had to think about the structure of my schools. We had to think about the curriculum, and that was going to cost money. So we had to invest in people that were able to support pupils doing these things. In addition, I also have to make sure that all staff are behind this. So last year, for the first time, we made it an appraisal objective for all staff that they had to have a careers-based focus, and that was brilliant. Some of the ideas that staff came up with were really, really creative and really amazing, and we will take that the next step further next year, etc. But I think will always go forward as a whole school objective, careers, work experience, because I think it is really, really powerful, really important. And that's where they're heading. So that's where we need to invest, because we need them to be able to sustain these work placements as well.
That is just wonderful what you do kind of in your school. And then does that then build to successful external placements as well, to young people going out to work experience placements?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when they come in, they're identifying pupils that are really passionate about what they're seeing and what they're doing, whether it's finance, whether it's working on the stock market, whether it's doing, coding or something, or whether it's working with animals. They've made a connection already. But equally, the employers are seeing our pupils face to face and what they can achieve and what they can accomplish, rather than seeing a bit of paper that would go out to them externally with their risk assessment. And their risk assessments, can look quite extreme and complex. So for an employer taking those in, I get it. It's going to be a risk. And do they have the time or the capacity to support somebody on paper that might present in a way that they might not have the expertise to deal with? But when they come in, we break those barriers that they see them face to face, and they're able to accomplish great things.
And by you doing that as a team, that then really helps that employer to see that young person as being more than what might be written about them on a risk assessment or any kind of written summary of
yeah, absolutely, 100%. They're not always up to date either, are they?
Thanks, Tina. How about you, Patrice? What does your model look like?
All of our young people, they access coaching, so they have their own coach, and they have at least 3 coaching sessions per term. And the idea
is that big term or small term?
It's big term. It's for the whole.
Right. Okay.
For the whole of the program. And the idea is that in these coaching sessions, the young people tell the coach what targets they want to achieve, and then the coach helps them supports them to achieving those targets, and then the coach will then feed that back to their parent or their carer, just so that everyone is, I guess, trying to support that young person into that career or into that work experience that they want to do.
That sounds amazing. Like, I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years. I didn't really think about that model where everyone's included, including the parents and the carers. Is a really good way of getting them involved. How many coaches do you have?
So on the Future Leaders Program, we have 4 coaches across 14 institutions.
Yeah.
And they work with a caseload of up to about 70 young people.
So I'm just thinking tactically, I could just probably change the name of my work experience coordinator, but make sure that they've got the capacity to be able to see pupils once a term. And what else can that coach do for them? So obviously the targets come from the pupil, the things that they want to achieve, which I think is really important from an independence point of view. But do you have any other people involved in supporting their a work experience placement?
We do it slightly different. Well, not slightly different, a lot different. We kind of approach it from many different angles. So we start off with the insight days, so taking the young people out into a business so they can see the lots of different jobs on offer, let's say. And then the young person will have a business mentor. So they'll work with that adult for 6 sessions. And the idea is just to, I guess, understand the world of work from that business mentor's point of view. And then that business mentor will help the young people understand where they fit into the world of work, right? After that, they'll have a peer mentor, which is someone who's a very similar age to them, who's quite successful. And I mean, what is success? But the idea is that these slightly older young people are either in university or they've got a job as well, or they're just working in a job or they're in an apprenticeship. And again, that peer mentor will kind of, speak to them about their future and where they see themselves. And then they'll do the work experience. And that could be anything from, like I said earlier, 3 days, 5 days, 2 days carouseling. in a business. But yeah, we kind of try and build them up to do the work experience, and then once they do the work experience, they come back and they speak to their coach about how the work experience is going, and the coach helps to coach them through, I guess, any experiences or challenges that they're going through to help make that work experience really beneficial to them and success to them.
That sounds so good. And so the insight days, are they in groups?
So normally it's about 30 young people at a time that we can take into a company. So we've had like Canon or Uber or Sky, lots of different types of companies that we get our young people into, and they love it, man. So if they love it, we love it. We're happy.
Can we just go a little bit deeper into the value of helping young people understand those workplace expectations? Patrice, would you mind just talking a little bit about ThinkForward's work readiness capabilities?
Right, you're putting me on the spot here, but we've got 7 work readiness capabilities, and that's around organisation, being self-aware, being self-assured, being driven, being resilient, having good communication. I think I'm missing one, but again, they should share it.
They sound great.
But the idea is that in their coaching sessions, so they meet their coach at least 3 times a term, and it can go up to like 6 or 7 times a term, just depending on the young person's need. And it's just coaching the young people around those work readiness skills, each time trying to help them get better at communicating, let's say. Just say for that term, that young person wants to work on communication. Their coach will help them each time they meet work on communication. That will also be fed to their business mentor as well. So it's just this whole holistic kind of wrap around the young person, around building those skills, and just highlighting every time that they see those skills in play. And it could be even from a teacher at school, and they say, okay, sir or miss is really self-assured when she teaches a session. It's always about, I guess, signposting and understanding where they're seeing these skills, and then them trying to take those skills on and improving their own skills in that way.
And Tina, you've mentioned this already, and it just sounds fantastic what you do to prepare young people for success with work experience placements and internal work experience. But what would you say that you've introduced in your school that really translates into readiness for work?
I think just everything you do in schools translates that way. You know, them coming into school on time, you having positive conversations with them, just modelling positive language all the time. From the moment they come in, they're around each other, they're around adults, etc., that are doing that. So we'll have breakfast club first of all, that's what we call it. But during breakfast club, we are having sessions every single day that are relating to things that are going on in the world around them. So and also when they're in the workplace as well, they are prepared for that. You know, they're doing a qualification alongside it, etc. And they're watching people in that environment as well, adults. So that's the only way that I can see that we can do it without going to your sort of model, which sounds really useful and maybe expensive, but something to look into, definitely.
Right. We have a question from one of our youth advisory group, which we would love to play for you. So B is a member of our youth advisory group. She spent time in a small AP where she felt incredibly supported. But due to size, there was a lack of work experience. So is it okay if we play her question?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm B. I'm part of the Youth Advisory Group for the CEC, and I went to an alternate provision for my GCSEs in Year 11. It really supported me and was so valuable to my education and to be where I am now. Every day I'm so grateful that I went there. It was such a small community, but I really loved that because it meant I got individualised support. But often because it was so small, I didn't get much work experience there. What they could offer was quite limited, and the pathways I had access to were again quite limited in terms of experiencing and discovering those. As a result, the expectations were quite low, and there was no push or help to aim super high. So a lot of stereotypes and barriers really prevented me to feeling like I had opportunities to go further. And even after being in an alternate provision, when people see that I've gone to one, often there's assumptions or due to my diagnosis as well, that there's only certain ways I can go. So I guess what I wanted to ask was, how do you try to counteract this and provide range of opportunities and exposure to different pathways so young people don't feel like they're being forced or pushed into a corner, and don't underestimate what they can do. So yes, thank you so much.
So I guess it's something that I spoke about before, and it's the process in the way in which we approach work experience. But I definitely think insight days, like a day inside different businesses, really helps to open your career opportunities, because you're going to see a lot of stuff or a lot of job roles in those different companies that you just wouldn't know existed. I didn't even know half of them existed. So I can only imagine some young people have no clue that these roles existed. But when you speak to those adults who are in those roles, then that kind of opens your mind a little bit. I think it might be helpful for me to say as well, at ThinkForward, we have someone called a business partnership manager. And this person, their job role is or the whole team is to go out and leverage, I guess, insight days and partnerships with different industries, with different companies, so that we can then have those insight days, which are valuable and important. But I think, if because not everyone can get the work experience, but if you can't get the work experience, I would say insight days are really, really important. Just keep on schools or APs, just keep on put someone in charge of trying to reach out to as many different organizations as possible, because that would really help open up young people's minds. And then fun fact is, after you've started to get the insight days with these different companies, they're more likely, once they see how amazing your young people are, they're more likely to want to offer work experience at some point. So I think that's a good process going forward.
Great answer. And I think you've just touched on something really important as well about that resource and that support and that kind of partnerships management, whatever that role or function might look like within school or an AP setting, but having that investment in somebody who has the time to build those relationships and open the doors in the first place. What was it called? Partnerships?
A business partnerships
manager. Do you have an equivalent role, Tina, at your school?
Well, yeah, I have a work experience coordinator, so I could change the name, and change the focus. And maybe that's next steps for us, because I really like that idea. I mean, obviously we're Kent, and I have to think about pupils. Our focus next year is more independence, because I think that's another reason why college placements are breaking down. So again, coming up to London and coming to big companies and seeing all those different departments is going to be really inspiring for them. But we could tie that in with, some travel training, like where they have to research how to get there, and we'll all go up there together as a group, etc. So it's just little shifts, I think, in what we do, what we call people, etc., where it just seems a little bit more corporate and a little bit more adult. It sounds really good. From an exposure point of view, from your young person, I would say that we not only do we have our internal work experience placements, but we also have people coming in to talk to pupils. We've had someone from NASA, for example, but we have to make them meaningful. So we have to prepare the pupils, we have to prepare them when they're coming in, etc. And they need to be asking questions, etc. So she sounds like she would have been an ideal candidate, because I'm sure she would have been asking loads of questions, etc., because she was obviously very, very interested in everything around her.
And for leaders listening, what would you say needs to be in place at a strategic level? So you've mentioned some great examples already, Tina. But what are you most encouraged by right now in the sector, and what should we be doing more of?
I think for leaders that it needs to be high on their agenda. I was really fortunate that I was on a pilot scheme last year where I was able to do a qualification in executive leadership for careers, and that really opened my eyes. I thought careers was just a bolt-on, which is a terrible thing to say, but it was, and it has been through pretty much all of my career. It's just that other people were, responsible for that, and I didn't see it as being strategic. And I think when I did that qualification, all of a sudden I was writing a strategic careers plan. I was really thinking about it, and it was, and I led that from my position to everybody. So I changed so many things. It became part of my school improvement plan, and I think because of that, we've gone from a place where work experience was, just a week's work experience and just a bolt on a tick box activity, to making it integral. And I think that's really, really important. But, you can't just write a strategic plan for careers. You've got to have the backing from your governors, etc. You've got to be able to have some control over your budget, and you've got to have a real think about what's working out there for schools and start planning for it. It's not going to be perfect, but I think once you've got a plan, you can start tweaking it.
I think quite simply, that plan needs to be as important as your maths and English. That makes sense. It has to be, like you were saying, really integral, because it goes hand in hand, because we know that our young people are leaving APs and schools, and they're not getting into the careers that they want. Employers are telling us that, right? So if we start it earlier, which is in schools, and we link it to their maths and English as well, that's where I think leaders need to really focus in on, just really pushing work experience and careers as hard as they push maths and English GCSE.
When you source these wonderful placements, how do you ensure that they're going to the right young people, the ones that are going to succeed and the ones that may miss out otherwise?
So I think with us, we try and make sure that everyone has the same opportunities, all the young people, right? Because what we've realized in running programs in education in APs for a very long time is that sometimes the young people, they don't know until they're on the work experience that they're actually interested in this career. So essentially, we try and make it as open as possible. We try and give everyone the opportunity to stake a claim for, actually, this is what I like doing. Even in some cases, if some young people's energy isn't in the right place, this could be the turning point to helping them, helping their energy and behavior turn around and have something to, strive for.
So can we touch on we've spoken about some of the barriers, importantly. Can we explore the impact that modern work experience and the brilliant things that you both do have on your young people? And I suppose accompanying that, some of the strategies that have been successful in removing barriers, enabling those young people to succeed.
Okay, so the impact on our young people is definitely confidence. They've got something to share. They've got something to talk about. They've had a purpose, etc. Those things that you can capture through surveys come up really highly, those interactions and that self-belief. But attendance, good qualifications, etc. Making sure that they go to their interviews, whether it's for an apprenticeship or whether it's a college placement, and not being scared at the last hour or something and just not going, actually turning up for those meetings, etc. So all of those things in relation to self-belief, confidence, reliability and that resilience, I think come from not just being in that school environment, but experiencing life outside of the school environment. So whether we bring that in or whether that, people, by people coming in or doing work experience or they go out, is so valuable, because without those things, there's going to be no impact. They aren't going to go to their interviews. They're not going to show up for college. So they need to, they need to be successful. And by just doing those little things, they can see that they can do it. And actually, when they come into our schools, I don't know about you, Patrice, but a lot of our young people are really lonely. They haven't been in their mainstream school for quite some time. So to come into a school where there is that sense of belonging, where, again, they're communicating, they're engaging with their education, they're engaging with strangers like externals, etc., then all of a sudden, again, maybe you can't capture that, but you can see that, the way they walk, the way they hold themselves, the way that they get excited for their futures again.
What I've seen is organisation skills, as in young people are starting to come on time to things because they realise, actually, in this work experience, I've got to be on time, or it won't go very well. And that's then relayed back into school, coming on time to school, making sure they're on time to lessons. Obviously, not every time, but a lot more than was previously. what we also seen massively improve is communication with adults. So a lot of our young people have had really negative experiences with adults, ending up in an alternative provision in the first place. It's just been quite negative. So when they, I guess, come into contact with adults who are their mentors, who are in or who are leading them through their work experience, we start to see when they come back into the AP or even in schools, they start to communicate with adults a lot differently. Even parents have said that as well, that their son, their daughter has started to communicate with them differently. And that's an amazing thing.
I love how you both just framed the answer to that question around impact of careers not only being about having a positive destination and next step, but actually some of the things that are harder to measure. What would you say a successful transition for a young person in AP looks like?
Successful transition looks like a young person going into the beginning of a career that they want long term. I think that's it for me. It's just them being, I guess, happy about the career choices that they're going into. Some young people just choose a career that they think their parents want them to go into or their carer wants them to go into, but it's really about what they want to do. And just to say as well that even just say you start something and you realize actually that's not what I want to do. I want to do something else. Even that in itself is a success because you've realized you've tried to go this route, and actually through going through this route, you found out actually, no, that's not what I want. I want to do this. Yeah, that's a success as well. So, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. The confidence to make those transitions at whatever point they show up in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because life is, like we know as adults, life is not easy anyway.
No.
So, No.
I just love it when they come back and they tell us and they speak to the young people that we've got in our current cohort. For example, we've just had someone come back that's in a career in marketing in London, and I just love that fresh approach that they bring back in, and they come in, they tell them what they've been doing, their journey, etc. And then the messages that they give them, they're just so frank and open with them and supportive. But actually they do just say, it's on you and you've got to show up and you've just got to get on with it. And I just love that because that's ultimately what you do have to do, isn't it?
And what a great journey for that young person. They are now becoming the role models.
We call them ambassadors.
Of course you do.
we leverage them. Okay, come and talk to some of our young people, man. And like you're saying, it really works, isn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It really works. Yeah, beautiful.
How can schools bring parents and carers into the journey to positive transitions for their children? And it could be positive transitions back to a mainstream setting or positive transitions into FE, apprenticeships we've mentioned today.
They need to be ambitious, the same as we do in education. And I think, again, having our on-site coffee shop and other work experience placements that they can see where their children are working, they all of a sudden they understand the possibilities. So for us, that's definitely breaking down barriers, because for some of our parents, they've been sleeping outside their bedroom for quite some time because they're worried about them, etc. And they've had to give up work themselves to look after them, and to see them actively being part of society and actually doing really, really well, I think they lose that sight, and seeing that I think is really powerful and allows them to just relax a bit and maybe try to give them a little bit more independence.
It's so important on our programs. We make sure that we communicate and contact parents right at the beginning, just so that once they have the buy-in, we've seen that young people also have the buy-in as well, and they're open to doing a lot more if they have that support and backing, if the relationship's good, that is. But yes, it's so important to have that support from parents and carers. And the idea is, like I was saying to you before, when they have those coaching sessions, the coach then informs the parent carer about, what the targets are for the next session, and everyone kind of works towards that target.
And I'm going to come to you first with this one, Patrice. And we like to ask all of our guests the same question. What would your dream version of modern work experience look like?
So my dream modern work experience would look like working for a tech company. Working with all the latest kind of new tech devices that have just been released. Let's say a company like, I don't know, Google, or give me another tech company. What tech companies do we know? Apple. Oh my God. Apple, Google, Microsoft, these kind of trailblazers in the tech industry, and just being really practical, whatever the job is, being really practical. Even Meta, like we were talking about earlier, even like something like that. And it's just to see, yeah, like, wow, this could, like, the future could be amazing. Yeah, I think that would be the best thing. And also, having 4-day weeks would be great. I'm joking. Just being in an environment that's, I don't know, they seem to have, all these kind of like cushions and all these kind of sofas and, rooms where you can play. And if any young people are listening or watching, please, please, please look at tech, because that's really, blowing up. And just remember that I sent you there, so don't go out there and play.
How about you, Tina?
Well, I think I'm going to be quite controversial, actually, because my work experience was amazing, my own one. And I feel that maybe due to health and safety, maybe we don't have those same opportunities. So my work experience was for the police. So I did a week's work experience, and every single day I was with a different department, whether it was the scenes of crime officers, whether I was, running to toilets in a shopping centre because there was a heroin addict in the toilet, etc., or running after somebody else. It was so exhilarating and gave me so much energy. And I think I couldn't have asked for a better work experience, and I'd love that to be repeated for our young people. Maybe not that exact example, because not everyone wants to go into the police, but people want to go into public services still. And I think if we can, take away some of the red tape, etc., and give them real life examples where their adrenaline is going, where there is that energy from them when they're in their work experience. Not everyone wants to have an office job. Not everyone wants to work in hospitality. So yeah, I wouldn't ask for a different work experience. I thought my work experience was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And I saw so much and did so much, and met some great people as well that were doing really, really good things in the community. And, obviously it gave me an appreciation of, the hard jobs that are out there as well.
Thank you both. Been great talking to you today, and really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice, thank you.
I'd like to thank our guest today, Patrice Etienne, Head of Inclusion Programmes at ThinkForward UK, and Tina Hamar, Executive Head Teacher at the Rosewood School. We discussed how leaders can strategically embed careers in their setting, how even the smallest interaction can make a powerful difference, and ultimately, how to set young people up for success.